Hi there, welcome to Ancestral Recall. I'm your host, Eli Kaplan. Today's story is going to be about 97's groundbreaking set, Tempest. It's the first set that Mark Rosewater did the lead design on, and it's a bellwether for Magic design. Why watch this story? Because my stories are best stories. Tempest's design was led by Mark Rosewater, and if you listen to his first Drive to Work podcast episode, it's clear he loves this set. He gushes over this set. It's his first set, so it occupies a special place for him. The story of Tempest is about the skyship Weatherlight, captained by plucky Gerard Capuchin, who sails his team into the predatorial plane of wrath after mysterious forces kidnap the vessel's captain Sisse. There, his half-brother, the manipulative overlord Volrath, has created an artificial plane of storms, bleak landscapes, and bizarre mutants. There are huge hulking goblins called Mogs here. No, not him. Anyway, the stage is set for Gerard to go to rescue Captain Sisse from Volrath's stronghold. Dude even looks like Riker. I know it's trite to say that a set shook up Magic forever. Every set shakes up Magic forever. But in the case of Tempest, it was especially true. Tempest was the first set to have tons and tons of utterly brutal 2-drops. This was Zendikar Limited Speed on steroids. The Shadow mechanic was hardly a drawback at all, thanks to the incredibly cheap cost of these guys. Blocking? Who needed blocking? The Shadow guys made the format fast enough for Wizards to print a different mechanic, buyback, on spells that allowed you to return the spell to your hand on resolution. Buyback was for control, Shadow was for aggro. And aggro won the day like never before. Aggro was winning tournament after tournament after tournament, when historically Magic had been really about control matchups at the top levels. The best control card in the format was Evankar's Justice. Come on, 4 mana for a Pyroclasm? Doesn't sound so hot. But because Tempest creatures were so small, it was a backbreaker. Looking back, buyback gets very fond memories from most players because most Magic players love spells we can reuse again and again. It's more options. Wizards acknowledges this, but they're afraid of reprinting buyback because of repetitive gameplay issues. And that's a legitimate concern. Tempest also had 2 other major innovations. The Lycids were creatures that could transform into auras and back again, though in their fleshy form they were immune to enchantment removal. And then there were the Slivers. Oh, the real Slivers, who had pointy, stick-like limbs and gave abilities to all Slivers in play, even the opponents. M13 Slivers were loudly and widely criticized for their departure and much more humanoid representations. But despite the headaches that Slivers on both sides produced, Magic players loved them at the time. Magic players also had a bone to pick with Tempest because 10% of the set were reprints from the core sets in Portal. Why did players get Dark Ritual instead of a cool new Ritual variant? The new art was sweet though. I particularly loved Tempest's Circles of Protection. Let's get to some of the famous cards right away. Cursed Scroll. This broken artifact was in almost every non-control deck out there. If you had a single card in hand, you could pay 3 mana to ping your opponents. There was a legendary Japanese misprint of this card that cost 2 to activate. Actually, playing the 2 mana Cursed Scroll really was asking for it since people might think you were trying to cheat them. And some people did. Seriously, with so many creatures with toughness 1 or 2, this card was utterly amazing and format defining. The other thing about Cursed Scroll is you can just aim it at the dome. It worked. Bottle Gnomes. This cheap, colorless guy blocked so many things in the format and had a great sack effect. There was a deck that used the flashback card Corpse Dance to create dancing gnomes. Feel the beat of the tambourine, oh yeah. Yes, I have done that song for karaoke in front of Magic players. There's a reason I haven't been invited back. Soltari Priest and Soltari Monk. Okay, they don't block, but they danced around removal. White Weenie was such a force to be reckoned with at the time, and these guys were the primary reason why. But White Weenie, not quite as good as a different monocolored archetype. Boil. You, Blue. Wait, did just get censored? This card and Choke were the nastiest anti-blue hosers ever printed by kneecapping them in the lands. These cards were part of a cycle of incredibly angry color hoser cards. Chill, just plain brutal, but the worst of the lot was probably Perish, a one-sided Wrath of God against green decks. At the time, green decks had no real paths to victory other than creatures, so this card just wasn't fair. And then someone chose to reprint it in 6th edition. Color hosers were particularly brutal sideboard threats. New players often start off with monocolor decks, and these cards were incredible turnoffs for monocolored players. I honestly consider these cards to be Tempest's biggest mistakes. Capsize. Do you want to shut down the late game? Capsize is for you. It's a one-card combo, the most notorious of the buyback lot, and it still gets played occasionally in some vintage decks. Nigh infinite mana means incredibly frustrating games for your opponent. Jackalpup. One of Sly's classic beaters. Okay, the design's outmoded today. We have a better reprint in Standard today, but the drawback was worth it at the time. Dothy Horror. A classic example of how Rosewater's design loved cheap aggro decks. This guy was common. For 2 power, unblockable. Ugh, so good. Propaganda. I hate this card, but Control players loved it. This is the granddaddy of the ghostly prison effects. Wizards still prints propaganda effects here and there. The Medallion series. Wizards got my hopes up when they printed these in Duels 2013. They were just messing with me. Still, the medallions were really damn good. They enabled multiple buybacks in turns. As long as Wizards doesn't have any repeatable spell effects like buyback in the environment, I think that they might be able to take a risk by printing this in a core set. If Wizards really wants to push monocolored decks, you could see the medallions in M15. Diabolic Edict. This is the first widely played make your opponent sack a guy card. Lots of players still call it the Edict effect. Dismiss. For those of you on a budget in Legacy, this card's a lot cheaper to get than Cryptic Command, and it has the 2 most popular modes on it. Combo. At the time, there weren't many cards to enable infinite loops with this. Plane Shift's gating cards were the ones that really broke this card open in older Extended. Look at this Millstone. It's an instant combo kill with Painter's Servant. You want to do it again and again and again. This is a vintage staple, best partner with accumulated knowledge, but man, good luck getting these at a fair price these days. Alright, Living Death. This is a fair card, especially with Buried Alive.
Buried alive. Buried alive.
This is one of the very few ways that you're going to be able to deal with indestructible cards in Commander. Yeah, 1 extra mana one time, not going to be that big a deal. Wasteland, man, the $50 uncommon. You know, I love these. It's a Legacy staple in every sense of the word. Recycle! Phil Foglio, ladies and gentlemen. Phil Foglio. I do love this card, but I really prefer the black version in Planar Chaos, though, if just for the art. Reflecting Pool is one of the best lands that produces many colors of mana. Do I think that you should probably make an investment in Reflecting Pools? I think they're going to hold value over time. Check it out. Black's first 1-mana bear, Sarcomancy. Yeah, it's got a bit of a drawback. Man, Skullrack was such an amazing card that let you dig through your library for answers, and an amazing combo enabler. It also keeps you from getting decked, as long as you have a card in your hand. Static Orb. Some people like playing Winter Orb. Those people also probably enjoy punting kittens. Static Orb was Winter Orb's backup. Ooh, the trademark of Jamie Wakefield, King of the Fatties, Verdant Force. This guy is still a beast in multiplayer, despite being somewhat understated for 8 mana by contemporary standards. Alright, now we're going to get into cube cards, EDH cards, and cards that I want to make cheap jokes about. Why lie? Aftershock. Losing 3 life? Not such a big deal in Commander as it is in Constructed, and the sheer versatility of this card makes it a good addition to cubes or 100-card decks. Apes of Wrath, for the humor cube, because the pun is horrible. Blood Rage. This card was a favorite of, I don't want to call these people rules lawyers, but I do want to call them rules know-it-alls, because I have high esteem for lawyers. Anyway, the trick to Blood Oath is playing it during the little-known, brief time period after combat damage had been dealt, but before the beginning of main phase 2. I like to call this the Desert Step. It's still around today, so if you want to use Blood Rage to kill an opponent's attacker after combat without taking 4 more damage, well, now you know. Eladamri, Lord of Leaves. Back then, Shroud wasn't a regular thing, so this was an unusual ability, and he was the first Elvish Lord. Urtai's Meddling. This was suspend cards before suspend cards were cool. Yeah, I need to learn Photoshop so I can put hipster glasses on this. Any of the Licids. I know Rosewater hates them. Yeah, they're creatures that become auras, and I understand why, because when non-shadow creatures wanted to get through, the Licids were always sneaking around and getting in their way over and over. when you were able to put combat damage on the stack and then get them out of combat and still have them deal damage, dirty things happen. But tapped enchantments mattered. That's a lot of bookkeeping. I love these guys, though. Now, I prefer Chabo's Decree from Invasion because it has even more power to kill one creature type, but Extinction is almost as good and cheaper. Rootwater Hunter, Tim gets gills. Can't play this card! This is the first time Overrun saw print. It was the only reason to draft green in Mono Tempest, really. What's the final score? Tempest was a good set for draft, and one of the fastest environments ever. Green was shafted horribly, though, and while blue got lots of great shenanigans, it didn't have the speed to keep up with the other three colors most of the time. Red had amazing removals such as Fireslinger and Rolling Thunder, or as it's called in Japan, Roaring Thunder! White's Shadow Guys were amazing, and the rest of its guys were pretty lame. Wizards hadn't given flying to White as a primary ability at the time. Black had primo creature kill and efficient cheap Shadow Guys. There was a serious color imbalance, and that's a strike against the set. It all depends on taste, though, and while I generally prefer my formats to be slower, at the time, Magic needed the speed boost. It was too slow, so I'm going to give Tempest a 7 out of 10. The mechanics are neat, the limited format is fine if a little too fast, although later sets fix it. It took the initiative from Mirage Block, which was moving towards more compelling limited play, and actually got there. Tempest allowed the first slide X to dominate Standard, and made Red a serious contender for tournaments really for the first time. Thanks for watching today. Our next show is going to head to the next part of the Wrath Cycle, Stronghold. If you like this video, please be sure to go to that like button and click. You can also subscribe and go back and watch my other past shows. Please follow me on Twitter and contact me and give me your feedback in the comment section. It really does make a difference. I'm a teacher by trade, and so I crave constructive criticism. I want to know how to teach better. Thanks for watching. This is Eli Kaplan for Ancestral Recall, signing off. Good games, and good luck. Yes, this is an awesome Batman shirt.